Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second season of the Rapid Drivers Club Community Super League, as brought to you on the PC version of Assetto Corsa Competizione, the premier sim racing platform available on PC and also a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. But tonight we'll be kicking off the season of the second iteration of the Rapid Drivers Club Community Super League for the following schedule. Round number one, all these times being in British Summer Time, that's BST or UTC +1. In approximately 10 minutes time, so at 7:15 this evening, we'll be getting underway with our 15-minute qualifying session to set the grid for the purposes of our one and only race, which will follow immediately after at 7:30. That'll be a 90-minute feature race where it'll be all in, no holds barred with regards to both the pace and strategy to see who our winners will be. After which we'll be speaking to our podium finishers, that's first, second and third, in post-race interviews due to commence at approximately 9:10 tonight. In the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and it is the case that tonight's broadcast is being brought to you via one of two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to Paul Walsh or TX141TX on YouTube and tune in there. Alternatively, you can go to twitch.tv/TX141, my personal Twitch channel. But enough about me, let's continue with regards to introducing the season, because we've got a lot to cover in very little time, so we better get to it. As we can see here, the season ahead, we have 6 rounds on our calendar that are spread across gaps of 2 weeks. Today, of course, the season opener of round number 1 takes place at Kyalami in South Africa, for it is the 25th of June 2022. It'll be then the case in 2 weeks' time, we'll be heading to the United Kingdom for Donington Park on the 9th of July 2022, before making our way then to Australia for Bathurst on round number 3 on the 23rd of July, and then we follow up with a visit to France for Paul Ricard on the 6th of August, before then heading back to United Kingdom for Alton Park on the 20th of August. And then in a rather unique feature to a series hosted on the Sim Grid, of which this series is, alongside plenty of other series, it is the case we'll be seeing a random circuit being picked for the final round, which takes place on the 3rd of September, but that circuit will only be announced a week before we're due to go racing for the season finale. So it is the case, whilst our drivers and indeed our teams can prepare for the opening 5 rounds, they cannot prepare as much for the final round until the week before. That's when they'll know where they're going to be racing. But it's the case when we look from our calendar to our drivers, well, we've got plenty of drivers who are going to be competing over these 6 rounds, and whilst we can't introduce each of the drivers, we can introduce the communities that they'll be representing, for there are 11 communities racing. Now, these communities all represented different factions, if you will, or different communities within the sim grid sphere, also the sim racing sphere, particularly on the Assetto Corsa Competizione, but I know and appreciate that some of these communities have expanded out into other sim racing titles, such as, for example, iRacing and Gran Turismo 7, but it is the case that we have, going in alphabetical order here, we have Box Motorsports, we have DC Sim Racing, we have Formula Racing League, Half-Fast Gaming, On The Limit QT Racing, and Quantum Racing. Those are your first 11. And to give you a little bit of background with regards to each of them, it is the case that it will be one of those situations whereby the majority of the communities you can see here out of the 6 are newcomers to this league. It was the case they did not compete in Season 1, but we do have the returnees of Half-Fast Gaming, and they will be competing once again. But as we then look over to our second set of communities here, the other 5, we have Rapid Drivers Club, the host community behind this series, indeed the brains behind this series. We also have RIP Community Racing, we also have Salt Community Racing, SOP Motorsport, and Wild Things Racing. And we have some returnees there, of course, none other than Salt Community Racing, the reigning champions from Season 1, and they'll be looking to continue the momentum from the previous season and hold on to their crown. But will they be able to do so? Well, we'll find out over the course of the six rounds or the 10 weeks. We've also got the return there of Wild Things Racing, and recently concluded a close collaboration with Rapid Drivers Club for the 2.4-hour World Tour. And then it is the case as well, we have the returnees of what is RIP Racing, or RIP Community Racing there, and I do believe that is Racing Peace, although I may be mistaken on the abbreviation that RIP represents. But we do have the newcomers of SOP Motorsport, who are very growing in the sim racing sphere, and well, we'll have to wait and see how our newcomers stack up against our veterans of this championship. Now, as for the track for tonight, it is the case in the season opener, we are heading to the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit, located around Midrand, the town of Midrand in the Gauteng region of South Africa. As you can see from the circuit map provided to us by Dr. Enslin, the user from wikipedia.org, this circuit is made up of 16 corners, but its unique feature, it is all about momentum. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride, this South African circuit, and a much loved one at that, and I do believe it may be making a return to the Formula 1 calendar in the near future, although don't quote me on that. I believe that's just a rumour waiting for confirmation on. on. But it is the case that this circuit, 16 corners, started all the way from the kink at turn 1 and concluding at Ingwe corner at turn 16. It is all about establishing the flow, managing the speed for a variety of sweeping bends along with some heavy braking zones. The heavy braking zones being such as the crow forward hairpin at turn number 2, also the braking zone down to the crocodiles at turn 13, and final hairpin of Ingwe at turn number 16. But we also have the sweeping corners such as the jet ski sweep of turns 3 and 4 into barbecue at turn 5. Sunset corner, named of course because you're looking into the sunset at a given time of day through turn number 6, and the follow-up through clubhouse at 7. And then we have the sweep of the S's, the left into right combination of turns 8 and 9. Lionhead corner, or Leeuwkop corner as it's known in Afrikaans speak, at turn number 10. And then it's the run down to Mineshaft through 12. A flat out run for a very tricky left-hander leading up to the crocodiles. But it's the case, there's something for everybody here, but the momentum needs to be managed by our drivers if they want to score well. And we'll bring you some onboard laps in the qualifying session, there's no doubt about that. But as we come from the track to our rules, it is the case, we've got some rather simple rules here, but we still need to take you through them. It is the case that in general, all participants in this series shall be driving the BMW M4 GT3 machine, the newly introduced machine to the GT World Challenge official series, and it is the case it has recently arrived at Assetto Corsa Competizione, albeit it did arrive towards the end of last year, 2021, but it is the case it is the latest newcomer in the GT World Challenge series, and therefore it is going to be the focus for our drivers, the German machine. And this is also a single driver series where each driver's points scored contributes to their respective community. So what that means is in each car you will only see one driver. You'll not see driver swaps over the course of the race. Each driver will represent their community and the points they score will go towards their community's total. So I do believe in terms of the championship stands that we'll be tracking against the individual communities, but we'll confirm that as of round number 2 onwards. In qualifying, our drivers are permitted to use return to garage, that's RTG, whilst out on the circuit. And in the race, there is one mandatory pit stop, which will require fuel to be added to the car, but changing tyres is optional, so where our drivers decide to gamble on a single set of tyres, or alternatively decide to switch tyres, that's up to them. And as for the pit stops, they will have to occur within a 30-minute pit window, which is set to open up around the midpoint of the race. So 15 minutes before the midpoint and 15 minutes after the midpoint, and that midpoint, of course, being at the 45 minutes, given that it will be a 90-minute feature race. Well, that's enough rules and regulations, and we've done a bit of quick introduction. I know what you're all here for, I'm here for it too, and that is the racing. So we head to the circuit, and we can see here with Alex Nunes right now parked in the pit lane, represented at the Rapid Drivers Club. It is the case we've got a few drivers out of the circuit right now. Some names you'll be familiar with, some names of course you may be cheering on, and then some names who may be new to you, particularly communities that are new to you. But of course a driver who I know very well, Harry Phillips here from Wild Things Racing. I haven't seen him in a number of other series that I firstly covered, and we do look forward to seeing how he gets on at representing the WTR team. But we've also got, for example, Ickit Hedwind here, the German driver representing the Salt community, alongside his teammate, and that is Samuel Fosh here, parked in the pit lane right now and waiting to go racing as well. We also do have, just to give you the highlights of a couple of drivers here, well, of course we can't cover everybody, we've also got Evan Kearns here representing SOP Esports Racing, or SOP Motorsport in short, and I believe SOP Esports Racing is their dedicated esports division, if you will. The Irish driver here looking to do well tonight as he comes roaring down the kink and down towards turn number 2, but as he rolls his way through the corner here, we've still got plenty more drivers to introduce. In fact, we're going to have a field of approximately 35 to 38 drivers taken to the circuit tonight, and it's going to be absolutely spectacular. But we can see there in the YouTube chat plenty of you already putting comments in, and we say hello to Raphael Scullion, who is cheering on Pascal de Lucia for the win, and also Evan Kearns for fourth place, I do believe. And we see Evan Kearns here, of course, and we're just trying to find out what is Lucia out on the circuit right now, and there is Pasquale. He's currently parked in the pit lane, representing SOP Esports Racing as well. We also do say hello to the official SOP Motorsport Esports TV channel, who is agreeing there with Scullion with regards to who they're cheering on, and we also say hello to Frank Lucid there in the YouTube chat, also to Kenny737W, who is cheering on FRL, and we've also got there Nick Timmermans cheering on DC Sim Racing, and I believe it is the case that DC Sim Racing coming here in full force, and we do see Menno van der Molen, a very fast driver. Had the pleasure of recently competing against him in the official DC Sim Racing BMW M4 Competizione series, and he was the championship winner by a considerable margin in the end, absolutely dominant. But will he be able to take his graft from the M2 racing machine to the BMW M4 GT3 and be able to apply that? We will have to wait and find out. But if anybody can, I'm sure he will. He's definitely going to have an ace up his sleeve, as we also say hello there to A Million Ways in the YouTube chat. And well, as we do count down this final practice session here, Van der Molen parking it off circuit, And we also see, as we look further around here, Michael van Ries making his way around right now for the FRL, a racing team, as the Dutchman comes out of the S's and up towards Leeuwkop Corner. I believe that's Leeuwkop Corner now, unless I'm mistaken. No, that was jet ski sweep, in fact. And my eyes are deceiving me there as he comes out of Barbecue Corner, given it is night time. Now, in terms of the weather we're expecting here today at Kyalami, we have heard rumours there's a little bit of rain on the horizon, although you wouldn't believe it right now as our drivers make their way around at night or in the evening. It's currently local time at 7:15 in the evening, and well, it does look as though we've got a bit of cloud and not too much light, and well, we've got a low track temperature, only 12 degrees centigrade and 12 degrees ambient as well. So it will be the case those low track temperatures may come to haunt our drivers if they're expecting their tyre temperatures to be easy to raise, given the fact low track temperature and low ambient one means you've got to put a lot more effort into keeping that tyre temperature. But we also see there, I'm Buttermodus in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you, Buttermodus. And now as free practice comes to its conclusion, I believe some of our drivers just need to come to the end of their current flying laps and we will make the transition. And we do have some thoughts of our drivers to talk about going into tonight, and we will cover them in due course. But right now, everybody, I believe, is itching to go racing, and you can completely understand they're absolutely itching to go, given the fact that, well, they've been waiting some time, and there's been a lot of hype down in the paddock with regards to this series, as we see Matthew Mudd there from Half Fast Gaming in the pit lane. And, well, as we do look to the helicam, a lot of our drivers parked up right now, a lot of BMW M4s, of course, it being the one make car of choice here, and, well, everyone now waiting for that transition to the 15-minute qualifying session. Who will be on pole? Well, I don't think we can really tell based on this final practice session, given we've only had 15 minutes. A lot of our drivers have joined midway through, but if any indication, you would expect that Harry Phillips would be up towards the front, given he set the fastest time now at a 40.342. But again, those are just cricket scores, as we like to call them, in the fact they don't really mean anything until we see those lap times come on in the qualifying session. But we are just waiting for that transition right now, as we do also look here to Jonathan Atkinson, a very familiar name from OTL Racing. Is the case that Atkinson, a very strong driver, the Briton, and we're looking forward to seeing what he can do here. Very consistent driver, and that's one of the things he will have up his sleeve, is the fact his consistency is unmatched by a good many, as he does look to go racing here. And we also have his teammate Kieran Sharp here from OTL Racing, and a little bit of a joke and story with regards to Kieran Sharp, and this may make some of you heave a little bit. Well, we'll come to that very shortly as we get qualifying underway. But when he did share the livery that OTL Racing would be running, my comment in response was, as we're getting the livery loaded for the purposes of the racing, that's a very Sharp livery, and I completely forgot his surname was Sharp, and it made quite a few people laugh, and I didn't realise I'd accidentally made a pun out of his name within the space of 30 seconds of knowing him, and him saying, here's the livery for the team, as he has returned to the pits there. So putting my foot in it straight away, but Sharp forgave me for that, and now he's itching to go qualifying, albeit he's having to wait until a lot of the cars come out of the pits by the looks of things. And, well, as he is waiting, and we say hello there to Del7840 in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on FRL. It is the case that we can see here Jordan Cotton from RIP Racing Club making his way through Barbecue Corner here, and it is still a night time. In fact, we moved a little bit further forward in terms of into the evening right now, so it is the case that we are going to be racing in the evening, which is absolutely fantastic. So we won't see the liveries in full bloom, but we will see the headlights now add an extra dimension to the racing, given the fact that track visibility is a little bit lower than normal, therefore some of those less than obvious brake markers, perhaps that one tree off in the distance, or alternatively that small part of the marshal's post, or that colour change in the barrier may not be as obvious, and instead you're going to have to resort to more notable markers, such as braking boards, or alternatively where a curb starts or where a curb ends. But right now, as our drivers make their way around, we do look to the front of the pack, and we can see here it's DC Sim Races Timo Troquet, who is making his way down through Mineshaft, through turn number 12, and up towards Crocodiles of 13, and he is our lead driver right now in this qualifying session, in terms of he's the first driver out, and he will be taking us on to a flying lap in short order. And when he does, we will ride on board with him and give you that full on-board perspective. But when you say that, he gets a bit wrong coming out of turn number 15, and it will be the case, and then I believe his teammate will pick up the pieces. No, Troquet's going to lead on around here, although this is going to be a little bit difficult. Surely, no, he's going to lead on around, so we ride on board here, Troquet, as he takes us for a flying lap. So making his way across the timing line then, flat out through the kink of turn number 1, and heading all the way down the hill towards turn number 2 here. Looking to break for the Crowthorne hairpin, breaking that 100-metre board and aiming into the apex there to combat the understeer that's native to the BMW M4, and now up through the Jakeski sweep as he makes his way through turns 3 and 4, rolling the car to left, and now keeping it to the outside for turn 5. Coming through Barbecue Corner here in second gear before immediately stamping back on the throttle and charging his way up towards Sunset Corner. No sunset today. It is the case that we've got darkness instead, but still as he dabs the brake here after the 50 metre board, dabbing the brake at about 25 metres from the corner, rolling on through and then getting on the throttle, keeping 2 wheels in the white lines before rolling the car to the right hand side to go into clubhouse corner. Turn 7, much like barbecue, but less uphill and more flat out as he now makes his way into the S's. Turns 8 and 9 away, where it's the snap of the brakes there into turn 8, ride the curbing before getting the car settled and rolling to the right hander of 9 to complete the S's, using the runoff space there to get the best possible exit. Now heading over the crest into Lucock corner, turn number 10, a very tricky braking zone. You're braking over a crest and into a slight downhill slope as he now comes through turn number 11 and down in towards Mineshaft. Completely flat out here, we'd hope. We'll listen in. Fully committed on the throttle and there, now breaking it into the Crocodiles, looking for the 100 metre board. He finds it and breaks down, looking on his left hand side, and as he comes down to the slowest corner on the circuit into first gear, now exiting and heading through the kick of 14 before making his way into 15, rolling his way for the very tricky right hander of Cheetah before coming down to Ingwe corner, braking at that 50 metre board, braking as late as he dares, coming down to first gear again, almost the same speed to the Crocodiles, and now making his way to that timeline. A relatively good lap there for Troquet, but I think it's the case here, maybe faster out there. He sets the opening lap time of a 41.562, and can anybody match him or go faster as those lap times come pouring on in? Well, here's the case of Hubert Semensky here from Salt Community. It goes faster there, and it is the case that Headwind from Salt Community as well goes even faster at 40.750, but we've still got plenty more laps to come on in here in this qualifying session, albeit 15 minutes. It sounds a long time, it's not a long time, and we see already on the weather radar in 30 minutes time we've got light rain on the horizon, so it's going to be the case we're not going to have any rain in qualifying, so our drivers won't feel the pressure of having to get a good lap in before the rain arrives, but they may be thinking rain's already going to be here when we do go racing, and that is a worry for many. Of course, they were warned there may be rain on the horizon based on the weather simulations that were modelled ahead of tonight. And we do see Daryl Young here for Wild Things Racing, and as he makes his way out of that barbecue corner, he's currently P8, and as he makes his way now up towards Sunset corner, it's the case he's 8/10 off the fastest lap as set by Headpoint, and as he comes through at Sunset now, he'll be thinking about how can he get a bit closer, but you can see there it is the case from P1 all the way down to P12, it's just over a second that separates the top 12. Such is how close this field is in this qualifying session. And whilst our drivers are still putting in those qualifying laps, I did have the opportunity to catch up with a couple of the drivers or the team managers going into tonight's racing, and the first person I was able to catch up with was the Portuguese of Alex Nunes here, who is representing at Rapid Drivers Club. And well, it was the case when I was liaising with him, he was just giving me a little bit of background with regards to the series, but also with regards to the team and their aims. Just saying that the Rapid Drivers Club team are looking to have fun. They aim to have fun in this series and have some of their community members get their hands dirty and get some good points for the team. Indeed, Alex Nunes will know all about how to get down and dirty with regards to battling for positions, particularly in the 2.4 BMW M2 class, where it was the case of the 2.4 World Tour involved in a number of scraps and in the end having to really fight for those points. But here, switching from a BMW M2 to the BMW M4, he didn't really give any thoughts about the M4 itself. What he was saying is the whole idea of this Super League was from Jens Harris, the founder of the Rapid Drivers Club community, and of course this being the second season, it just goes to show you how this series is going from strength to strength after a very popular first season. It's backed by popular demand, but right now Nunes making his way to that timeline. Is he able to improve this time? He improves to P16 in fact, but then he drops back to P17 as the driver sets an even faster lap ahead of him. Such is how the field is evolving here, as we've still got 9 minutes left on the clock. But we do look from him to some of our other drivers around the circuit right now, and well, we can see here it is the case that Steve Enderes, the half-fast gaming driver, rolling his way right now through turn number 13, the Canadian, the number 5 car. And I didn't have the chance to catch up with Steve in particular, but I did catch up with one of his teammates and the representative from half-fast gaming, and that was Jeff Trujillo. And what Jeff was saying to me in the build-up to tonight, and I can't actually see Jeff out on circuit right now unless my eyesight is deceiving me. No, I can't quite see him out there, so it's the case we're just going to have to utter his words and not see him out on circuit. But it was the case that Jeff was saying to me that his community, in terms of the half-fast gaming community, started a bit before they started hosting on the Sim Grid, and they were partnered with the Rapid Drivers Club for a while to provide Sunday races to transatlantic drivers. So in particular, when we say transatlantic, look at across from Europe and the pond from the United Kingdom to the United States and Canada, so the North American continent. And it is the case that in having established those transatlantic races and transatlantic crew, they continue to support the Rapid Drivers Club community, but they've established their own community, of course, and well, the drivers representing Half-Fast Gaming are from within the community itself. Most of us being from the beginning, from the very origins of Half-Fast Gaming, so it is the case we've got the veterans of their community who are giving it their utmost and representing the team. And how will they do? Well, right now Enderes is needing to find a bit more lap time out there. He's currently 3.2 seconds off of pole. He's down in P32, but it may be the case that he's just not quite up to speed or up to temperature in that car yet. And of course it can take some time. Some drivers are very good at getting those laps out of the box, whereas other drivers may need a little bit more time. I'll personally admit to you, I'm one of those drivers who I normally need about 4 or 5 qualifying laps before I really start to hit my stride, whereas other drivers, such as Samir Fosh here from Salt Community, are able to hit those laps very early on. He's currently running P3, provisional P3 in this qualifying session, with just under half it to go right now, and looking very good indeed. Currently 4.5 tenths off a provisional pole position of what is Harry Phillips here, and as he makes his way into the pit lane, in fact he's already parked up in the pit lane. It is the case the Wild Things Racing driver here from the United Kingdom parked up, and I didn't have the chance to catch up with the Wild Things Racing drivers before tonight, unfortunately. They were a little bit quiet down the pit lane. I think they were focused on getting the car setups ready, but it is the case they're very eager to do well here, there's no doubt about that. As we do look from Harry Phillips, who's in the pit lane, to Yannick Hertz here, the DC Sim Racing driver, as he makes his way, I believe that is up into, I want to say that's into Lukop corner there. Indeed that is Lukop, as he made his way over the crest, and now down the hill he runs, but he pulls out the way there to stay out the way of the traffic, as he's on a warm-up lap rather than a fast lap, and therefore he doesn't want to impede. And in terms of stewarding for this series, it is the case all the stewarding is being done post-race. There is no live stewarding here, so it is the case that any incidents that may see stewards' decisions, we'll only hear about it after the race and going into the next round if there's any effect to the outcome of the race results themselves. As we see that Kurt's getting a bit wrong and hitting the curb at Cheetah way too high, and that launch of the car, that's the one thing you have to watch out for. And Cheetah corner is just how easily clipping that apex curb can launch the car. It's a very high curb. Right now Kurtz will be aware of that, and with 6 minutes still on the clock, plus his final flying lap, he will be looking to make amends. He's currently P15 to be fair, so he's doing pretty well, but he'll want to creep into that top 10 if he can. But as he makes his way down into turn number 2, once again, we do look from Yannick Hertz to Pascal de Lucia, as we can see here, the Irishman making his way through the kink and down into 2. And well, I didn't have the chance to catch up with Pascal himself, but I did have the chance to catch up with Simon Baggers, who was representing the SOP Motorsport team in terms of the pre-race discussions I had with different representatives from the teams. And what Baggers was saying is the fact that in terms of the drivers competing in round number 1, it is Liam Page from Wales, Pascal de Lucia from Ireland. We've also got Evan Kearns from Ireland and Peter Brett from Ireland. And they also have 2 other drivers in rotation for the other rounds, and that is Jonathan Reed from Ireland and also Simon Ramsay from Ireland. So quite a dominated Irish team there with 1 Welshman in. And it is the case that Simon was saying to me is that 4 of the drivers, so Evan and Peter, Pascal and Simon, are brand new signings to the team, making their full championship debut with this competition. So it is the case there's a little bit of extra pressure on the line for drivers such as Pascal here within the SOP Esports Racing team that's representing in Season 2, in the fact that they are newcomers to the team, so they will want to do their utmost to really deliver and show what they can deliver over the course of the races. But I think at the same time as well, they'll have the utmost support from Simon Baggers and the rest of the SOP Motorsport community. And I do know a good number of the SOP Motorsport community are cheering in tonight and cheering them on, and do give them a big cheer if you are cheering on SOP Motorsport, because it is the case they will want to do their best. Indeed, everybody will. But well, it was very nice of Simon to outline that to me, and he was saying that whilst the new drivers are relatively unknown on the big stages of ACC competitions, they're hopeful their drivers can have a promising showing and work well together to collectively challenge for the championship. And indeed, that's the thing, it's not just about solo drives, it's also about teamwork, albeit each driver in the team is in their own car. But you can imagine you'd rather have all 4 of your drivers finish within the top 5 rather than only one of them in the top 5 and the rest finishing outside the top 20. So the idea being they'll want to try and deliver that consistent set of results across the board. But as we see him make his way on down here, and well, if that is very true, Raphael Scully in there in the YouTube chat that Pascal is a 67-year-old, and he's definitely fast in P7 right now. I'm going to take your word at that. In terms of age, it's just a number at the end of the day, and Pascal is definitely showing that as he makes his way up towards Sunset Corner. But with 3.5 minutes still on the clock here, it is the case that we do look from Pascal to his teammate, of course, Liam Page, whose livery has not quite loaded in there. And it is the case if we do have some liveries that haven't loaded correctly, we'll get those fixed around 2 onwards. It is the case, of course, we always have teething issues with the season openers. From a presentation perspective, we'll get those out of the way. But Page here, of course, looking to do his utmost as well. The number 106 car, and as he comes charging on through, it is the case. Those are all the teams and drivers we're able to catch up with in the build-up to tonight, and now the focus back onto qualifying, where it is the case that Harry Phillips still holds that provisional pole position of a 40.182. He's in the pit lane with Headwind there, P2, and Sodecat in P3 right now, with Foch behind in P4. But it does look as though, to be fair, that it's going to be a front row lockout between Wild Things Racing and the Salt community. So it is the case, well, they've got drivers on both rows 1 and 2, and well, who is in P5, starting off row number 3 right now. Things to end as they are when it's DC Sim Racing's Tim Troquet here for the Dutchman, really trying to push on. And to be fair, the DC Sim Racing security predominantly Dutch drivers, so we're going to see a lot of Dutch flags in relation to them, but they're very open as well to drivers from other countries racing as part of their series and joining the team. But as we can see here, the 997 driver definitely trying to do his utmost to get onto that second row if he can and try to split the Wild Things Racing sort dominance up there on the front 2 rows, but we'll have to wait to see. But as he makes his way around, we do look a little bit further down the order, particularly to P37 driver here, Lewis Argitsu, as we can see here, the half-fast gaming driver from the United States to America, making his way right now up towards sunset. And as he does here in that long charge, it is the case that he'll be hoping to qualify a little bit higher than P37, especially given the fact that with our 38 drivers here and the fact that overtaking can be possible at Kyalami, but can also be a little bit difficult. It's quite easy to defend here unless you do make a mistake. Well, we can see here Argitsu heading into the S's right now, and well, he has got a lot of time to find. He is the best part of what is 6 tenths off of Mudd, who's in P36, and Matthew Mudd there really only half a tenth off of Endres, as we can see just how close the times are, and particularly from the pole position right now to P19, it's 1 second. That is how close these drivers are, and to be fair, Kieran Sharp is only a further half a tenth outside of that 1 second margin, so you could put P20 into that space if you will. But right now, I can see who we follow in his way down towards what is the Crocodiles here as he comes through the right-hander and looking very nice right now, looking very composed. This lap is definitely improving. He's currently a 10th up on his previous best, but it's not going to be enough, I think, to get him further up the order. But he'll be happy if he's able to beat his personal best right now as he comes into the left-hander of Ingwe. And as he comes out of the corner, Ingwe standing for leopard in, I believe, the Zulu language. It is the case he crosses the timing line here, and well, he is going to improve to what is a 1:42.992, which keeps him P37, but now he is only 3.5 tenths off a P36. But we head from him to a driver who's coming to the end of a lap right now, and that is, I believe, that's Alex Nunes here, as we do see the Rapid Drivers Club driver making his way to the final corner. And as he does, we will ride on board with him in short order here as he comes across the line to go on to one more flying lap. Crosses there, and he's able to improve to P15, and now he will go again to try and improve once more as that timer does come to a close. So the checkered flag is now out, and now the pressure is on all the drivers from their final flying laps to finish them and improve further. So as he comes through turn number 2 here, gets it hooked up and brings the car very aggressively to the left there for the Jakeski sweep, and as he now heads through 3-4 up into 5, you see straight lining out of 4 to put the car on the right hand side to go into barbecue corner turn 5 before charging out of the corner. This is quite an aggressive lap so far, but you've got to be aggressive to be quick at Kyalami. Now heading into turn 6, braking as late as he dares, taking a very late apex there for Sunset, braking at about the 20-metre mark, but he goes wide there. And well, as he comes up into what is Clubhouse, he went wide, and that lap has been discounted. It's been disallowed, and well, it is the case when you break those track limits, the track limits police are absolutely merciless on the simulator here. Indeed, they would be in real life in the GT World Challenge Series. Well, it's particularly the Intercontinental GT iteration of it that typically races here. But we can see Matt Leyland right now for the RP Racing Club, making his way, I believe, into Lukop corner, and as he rolls his way through turn number 10, it is the case currently P25 is one of our last drivers on a flying lap here. Not too many to go. We've got most of our drivers already in. As he hums down through what is a Mineshaft corner here, of course, he will have that pleasure of being the last guy out of the circuit to be putting in a lap. So that will irritate some other drivers who just want him to get the move on here, but he'll be looking to improve as much as he possibly can. And he is currently a 10th up on his previous best over the first 2 sectors. And as he makes his way, oh, he's gone wide. It's an invalidated lap. And that will mean that Harry Phillips is your pole position sitter for the purposes of the season opening round here at Kyalami. He's pipped so to get to pole by a 10th of a second. That's how close it was in the end. And now we wait for the transition to the formation of the grid. But as we do wait for that transition, I should say, which should occur any moment, with Sodicat there missing out only by a tenth, and then there's a sizable 2 tenths gap to Headvoid and also Foch, who make up that second row. I do think it may be the case that we're going to be seeing it quite up and down in that top 10 in particular, because you can see, look at the delta from P1 to P10, only 6 tenths of a second, and how close it was in the battle for P8 for Zimanski, Brett and Davidson. Those guys only being separated by a tenth themselves. It is a very close qualifying session here at Kyalami, despite the fact the lap itself is quite a long lap and a very challenging lap. That shows you how on the ball of our drivers have been. And well, we get the transition to the grid, and as we do get that transition, we do now take you down through the grid order, driver by driver, as our drivers are getting set in the final preparation phase. So it will be the case, starting from pole position on what was a very strong qualifying lap in the end, is Harry Phillips from Wild Things Racing here. He will take us away from pole. Alongside him on the front row, it is Patrick Sodicat from Wild Things Racing in the end. Wild Things Racing actually locking out that front row, and then behind them it is the Salt Racing Community combination of Ickit Headvoid from Germany, and he is joined on that row by his teammate Samir Foch. And well, we can see here the Salt Community driver in the 888 car. He's a very fast driver from what I'm hearing, and very strong under race pace conditions, and we look forward to seeing how that works out. On our third row, we have Tim Troquet from DC Sim Racing, and he is joined on the third row by Pascal De Luca. And we can see here the SOP Esports Racing driver putting in a very strong performance for his maiden race with the team. In fact, his maiden qualifying session with the team, and now he's got to show it off in the race. On our fourth row, Daryl Young from Wild Things Racing, and he is joined by Hubert Smansky from what is the Salt Community there, P8, and the Polishman driver then just qualifying ahead of Peter Brett, who starts off our fifth row. The SOP Esports Racing driver there from Ireland being joined by Tom Davidson from the Rapid Drivers Club Community. He starts P10. Wojciech Neuwirth there from the Salt Community, I believe the Czech Republic driver. He will be joined on what is row number 6 by Liam Page. As we can see here, the SOP Esports Racing driver from the United Kingdom on his debut, looking to put in a good performance. And then on row number 7, we have Hakon Roholt, and the Norwegian driver there from the RIP Racing Club will start off row number 7 alongside Christoph Samin from the DC Sim Racing team, the Belgian driver there. And then on row number 8, we have Alex Nunes from Rapid Drivers Club, and the Portuguese is joined on row number 8 by Mano van der Volen from DC Sim Racing. And then on row number 9, we have Michael Races, and the FRL driver will be joined on that row by Evan Kearns from SOP Esports Racing. Behind them, we have Luke Francis kicking off our 10th row, the Rapid Drivers Club driver from the United Kingdom, who is being joined by Traction Dave, who is in P20 there for the FRL community. And then we do have, starting off our 11th row, it is Elias Andersson, the Swede from IAP Racing Club, and he is joined on that row by Kieran Sharp from OTL Racing, the highest qualifier of OTL Racing in Kieran Sharp. On row number 12, we have Yannick Kurtz from the DC Sim Racing team, and he is joined by Ryan Brown from Quantum Racing team, that being Quantum's highest qualifying position, the Britain doing well for P24. Then we have Matt Leyland in P25, who starts off row number 13, and he is joined from the RIP Racing Club by Richard Pixley from Wild Things Racing, who starts P26. We then have Jonathan Atkinson, who lines up P27, starting off row number 14, the OTL Racing driver. He is joined on that row by his teammate Andrew Pike, and they'll be looking to work together to make some early ground in this race. There's no doubt about that. Then on row number 15, we have Alistair Leckie from Rapid Drivers Club, the Briton, being joined by John Treacy from what is the Island Boys. Well, I believe, in fact, that is Half Fast Gaming, and it's the case he may not have had his livery loaded ahead of tonight, but I do believe the American is representing Half Fast Gaming, unless I'm very much mistaken. And then on row number 16, we have Jordan Cotton from RIP Racing Club, and he is joined by P32 driver Chris Davies from Quantum Racing Team from South Africa. He's racing at his home circuit, so he'll have a little bit of pride on the line, as well as team pride on the line. And then we do have David Hester, who starts off row number 17, the Half-Fast Gaming driver from the United States of America. He is joined by Michael Van Ries, the FR Racing Team driver from the Netherlands. And then starting off at row number 18 is Matthew Mudd from Half-Fast Gaming, the United States driver, being joined by his teammate, and that is Steve Andres from Half-Fast Gaming Canada. And then on our final row, we have Luis Ogitsu, who the American will start off at P37 from Half-Fast Gaming. And our final driver, last but not least, is Christopher Gedman from FRL Racing Team, and he'll be starting in P38 from the United Kingdom. But minutes to go before our drivers get underway for the full formation lap here that leads to the manual double-fold rolling start. It is the case as we do look to the helicam, all of our drivers absolutely itching to go under the darkness. And it is the case as we can see on the weather radar there in the top right corner of your screen, we do have cloud cloud on the horizon for the next 10 to 20 minutes, but the rain is due to come in about 30 minutes time, and that will be on our drivers' minds immediately, given the fact we have a pit window as well. There's a mandatory stop with a pit window of 30 minutes, so the pit window will open at the 30-minute mark in the race out of the 90 minutes. So can our drivers hold on? If the rain comes just after that 30 minutes, it may be the case that our drivers are able to get away with running on the slick tyres when the rain is starting to fall. But if the rain comes a little bit sooner, say 25 minutes in, it could be the case that some drivers have got to try and brave the conditions so they don't have to double stop, whereas others may decide to safely make a double stop, and therefore they'll lose out places but make the ground by running on the wet sooner. Well, we'll have to find out all and more as Harry Phillips takes us away for the formation lap here, as we see the Wild Things Racing driver waiting to go. We see the rubber there off of the racing line, so much rubber being laid down in practice and qualifying, but he takes us away, and all of our drivers now will be looking to get that tyre temperature up as much as possible over the course of the formation lap. And well, we do look there into the YouTube chat and also the Twitch chat. If you're tuning in on Twitch, by the way, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We can see both chats here, although we can see the majority of you in the YouTube chat, which is great to see. But if you are tuning in and you haven't said anything in the chat, but you've got the right to, do not be afraid. We don't buy it here. Well, at least I promise you, I don't buy it, and it's the case, I assure you, the majority of, if not everybody in the chat doesn't buy it. But we can see there Leon Seeley cheering on SOP. We've also got Val before Gaming there cheering on Wild Things Racing and saying Wild Things Racing front row lockout, go team. Indeed, Wild Things Racing locking out that front row and setting the pace. And well, Harry Phillips, we were wondering whether his practice lap, which was set in the fastest time, whether that was an indication of qualifying, and in the end it was. But as all our drivers make the way around right now, we look to Liam Page here from SOP Esports Racing, and we ride on board as he comes through. When it's turn number 5 there on this formation, and just trying to get that brake temperature in. You can see a Nerve there ahead with the brake lights on. They're just trying to get some brake temperature in as well, and with the track temperature being only 12 degrees centigrade, and well, if we wanted a heart attack, ladies and gentlemen, we just had one. Look at the weather radar. In 10 minutes time we have got rain on the way, so it's the case we are likely to be seeing more than one stop here at Kyalami ahead of that one mandatory stop. And well, now we'll have to wait to see how the rain plays out, whether anybody can hold on and go the distance. And Liam Page, I'm sure, as of everybody, will be thinking about the fact that rain is soon to arrive. And we've also got some quite heavy winds here, 7 kilometres an hour winds so far. Could that be a factor as well in terms of the way the rain falls and how the cloud coverage changes over the circuit? But we'll have to see as we do a look outside Liam Page's car, looking a little bit further down the order. And to be fair, it may be the case that for drivers who qualified outside the top 20, such as Alistair Leckie, they may not have had the qualifying pace, but when the rain comes and those changing conditions occur, anybody can suddenly jump to the front of the field. It may be the case in dry conditions, we have some very fast drivers, but as soon as that rain makes its way in, will that throw open a spanner in the works and potentially bring some drivers who are slower in the dry but faster in the wet right up to the front. And we can also say hello there to Denise Pope, Sim Racing cheering on, Wild Things Racing, also MC Forest cheering on RIP. We've also got Liam Seeley there saying love these mixed weather races. Indeed we do, and I'm sure some other drivers may be thinking they don't love them, other drivers may be saying they absolutely love them, but we've got a lot of weather on the horizon, I can tell you. In fact, the forecast keeps getting updated. We have got rain coming in abundance as everybody now charging their way down through Mineshaft Corner here to make up the formation start. We haven't got long to go, and we are only moments away from kicking off the season. But we can see Harry Phillips now setting everyone together, bringing everyone together as he makes his way up into Cheetah Corner. And as we do look to the helicam one more time in this formation, and you can see now how everybody bunching up there with all the headlights on and whatnot as they make their way down towards Ingwe Corner. Fantastic to see 38 drivers here, all in sequence, all for their respective communities. That's what we love, that's what we wanted. 11 communities being represented here, 11 of the peak communities as represented on the sim grid and part of Assetto Corsa Competizione in the esports scene. And now we do wait for Harry Phillips to take us away for 90 minutes of racing. And it's lights out, and away we go for the season opener of Season 2 of the Community Super League. It's hosted by Rapid Drivers Club, and Harry Phillips takes it away. But you can see already his teammate Sodacat there trying to go around the outside as Headpoint looks to the inside potentially, but he can't get close enough, so they make their way into Growthorn Quarter for the first time. Samuel Fush up the inside, then make his way into P3 already alongside his teammate. But as they make their way up the hill, they're side by side here, the two teammates from Salt Community, but they settle their differences early on. Can we see DeLuca here coming through? Well, he's already gained one place, and now as he tries to make his way around Troquet Troket coming back as they make the way out to turn number 5 and head up towards turn number 6. And as they come charged on through here, it's the case. I think everybody's relatively made it cleanly through. We've already got a drive-through penalty for one driver for being out of position on the formation lap, but we can see here DeLuca, in fact, as he comes charging up through the corner, we've got Troket coming back up his inside here, and it's the case. The DC Sim Racing driver really going tooth and nail to hold on to P5 early in this race. As we see behind here, Peter Brett battling to defend the rear of his teammate here, trying to hold Szymanski as they make their way out through the S's and up towards Newcop corner, but I don't think it's over yet. So you can see Liam Page there, currently P9, battling side by side. I believe that is Szymanski who is battling side by side for trying to go around the outside into Newcop corner behind Daryl Young, trying to get into the mix here as Liam Page almost falls off the circuit as they come roaring through Newcop and head down towards my job corner. But you've got Daryl Young on the inside. Which one's going to back out here? I think Young's done the smart thing and backed out early, so that way he can have the momentum up into the Crocodiles. But as they come into that braking zone, here's the case, no change. But I can see Nuverf there making his way. Oh, he's got something up his inside, and that's Van der Molen. And Nuverf goes deep into the corner. He rejoins, and that's going to be a side-by-side right into Cheetah. You don't go too wide here, but they managed to make it somehow too wide through Cheetah corner. But you can see how everybody is stacking up behind them into the braking zone there. That's Holt, who's trying to find his way through for RIP Racing Club, is the Norwegian. As they make their way out of the corner, he's still battling side by side. I believe that is with Van der Molen as they make their way. No, in fact, he's behind Van der Molen as Michael Races also comes on through behind to get into position for FRL Racing Team. And that is that one concluded as they make their way down to the braking zone for Crowthorne corner once again. And you can see that Alex Nunes trying to go on the offensive versus Christoph Samin, but he can't find it right now in terms of the space he needs. Instead, he backs up into Michael Races, and as they make their way through turns 3 and 4 through the Jutski sweep, you can see now Nunes having to settle back into position here as they come roaring on through. But as they head on around right now, it is the situation that Nunes doing everything he can in order to be able to close them up, but no change so far. Oh, goodness me, and who's into the wall there? We've got somebody into the wall, I believe. Well, that's not Richard Pixley, that's Michael Van Rees, who's had a whack to the wall. How on earth has that happened? We'll find out very shortly, as right now he's losing places, and that is Chris Davies going around the outside through Sunset. We take a look back. This was only moments ago. We looked at the helicam here, and you want to focus on the white car in particular. Oh, goodness me. There was contact there with one of the Rapid Drivers Club cars, and as they made the way out to Barbecue Corner, you'll see, in this case, he settles back into a rhythm here, and as he makes his way up towards Sunset, there's a car wayward. Well, I'm not exactly sure what's happened there. It's the case, well, the damage we saw on what was on what was there, his car was not from going into the wall. That was another driver who we saw going into the wall, but it's all kicked off already, and, well, very unfortunate there, as we now return to live pictures, but the FRL Racing team driver of Michael Van Rees involved in the wars, and I'm sure there might be a report to the stewards after that, because that was a very nasty shunt for the Rapid Drivers Club driver. But I think Van Rees would argue that he had his right to be there. We can argue that in the stewards room all he wants as they make their way through a Cheetah corner. We can see the rain already clearing up, so it may be the case the rain's not actually going to arrive on circuit, and some hearts may be settling back into chest as a result, whereas other drivers may be thinking, oh, why can't the rain come sooner? But as they make their way out the final corner, we look from the midfield to the front of the field right now, and Harry Phillips leads the race still after the opening 2 laps. And the Wild Things Racing driver here coming through turn number 5. He leads ahead of Patrick Sodekat in P2. His teammate, the German driver here, we then do have what is the best part of a 1 second gap to Iket Hidwind as they make their way out of turn 5 and up towards 6 into Sunset. Here's the case, the Salt Community driver holding on to P3 ahead of his teammate Samir Foch in P4. We then have Tim Troket in P5 for DC Sim Racing. Oh, goodness me. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a server disconnect or something along those lines. We will be right back, but I think we may have some technical issues. My apologies. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Apologies for that. To explain to those of you who are not sure what's just happened, unfortunately, we just received a denial of service attack on the race server. So what that means in layman's terms is that somebody bombarded the server with too much information to prevent it from providing the race service, and therefore it was the case the server collapsed midway through the race, and therefore everybody was removed from the server. You may have noticed that we lost all of our drivers, and it was the case I'd been kicked from the server, much like our drivers. But we have reset the server. It is the case. It does seem as though denial of service attacks are becoming very common on Assetto Corsa Competizione servers of late. If anybody's been following the official SRO esports series, you'll notice or know that that did occur as well for the 24-hour Spa, unless I'm very much mistaken. So we are back at Kyalami once again, and we are just waiting for the last couple of drivers to enter the server. In fact, I think we've got all 38 drivers, and once they're ready to go, we will be advancing immediately to the race. Now, what that will mean is we'll be setting the grid once again based on the qualifying results from the qualifying session that occurred. We do have those results all locked in and recorded, so it's not as though we've got another 15 minutes of qualifying. So it's not the case that Harry Phillips will be denied his pole position, nor will it be the case that other drivers who qualified further down the order will be given a second chance, if you will, at a qualifying session, which could be very different. The only thing is, as we transition to the grid, we may have a bit different weather now and time of day as we get the jump forward to setting the grid. And, well, let's take you through that grid order once again for those of you who may not quite remember who's where and who's on pole and whatnot. So we start off from the front, and again, it will be Harry Phillips who takes us away from pole position from Wild Things Racing. He is joined on the front row by his teammate, Patrick Sodercat, the German driver from Wild Things Racing. And then behind it will be the Salt Community, a combination of Ikit Hedvoind, and there behind him Samer Fosh. And then we will have on our third row Matthew Mudd. Well, that's not Matthew Mudd, my apologies. I think we might have a slight glitch with regards to some of our timing screens that you can't see, so we'll make sure not to use those for the time being. We see Tim Troquet here, P5 for DC Sim Racing, and he will be joined by what is Pasquale Di Lucia for SOP Esports. And then on row number 4, we will have Daryl Young from Wild Things Racing, the Briton being joined by Hubert Szymanski from Salt Community, the Polish driver, qualifying well there to be fair, and looking to try and get a bit closer to his teammates, I would presume, as we go into the race. We also do have Peter Brett, who will be at their P9 and starting us off P9, and he'll be kicking off row number 5 with Ryan Brown alongside him in P10. And then we do have P11 Wojciech Nurwiew from what is the Czech Republic, the Salt Community driver. He'll be joined on that row by Liam Page, the SOP Esports Racing driver. We then have on row number 7 John Treacy, the LRIP Racing Club driver, being joined by Christophe Semin from what is, as we try to find Christophe Semin, there he is, the DC Sim Racing driver from Belgium. And then we have on row number 8 Alex Nunes from Rapid Drivers Club, and indeed our saviour of setting this grid. If anybody wants to give a round of applause to Alex Nunes, now is the time, because he was the one who's managing the server and making sure we have all the qualifying data. Credit to Alex for pulling us around very quickly and getting us back racing. And then we do have Menno van der Molen, who'll be joining in there on the 8th row, and the DC Sim Racing driver will be looking to take the fight to Nunes straight from the start. We then have Michael Thomas, who starts P17 for FRL Racing Team, and he will be joined by Christophe Semin, and that's the SOP Esports Racing driver in P18. Row number 10 will be made up of Frank Lucid here for the Rapid Drivers Club, being joined by what is there, I believe, Attraction Dave, as we do see the FRL driver P20. We then do have Evan Kearns, P21, the Swede, starting off our 11th row and being joined by OTL's Kieran Sharp, as we see the OTL racing driver from the United Kingdom. He being joined by Yannick Roberts there, who starts off on what is our 12th row, the Dutchman for DC Sim Racing, having Ryan Brown to contend with alongside from Quantum Racing Team. And then we do have P25, that is King from IP Racing Club, and I do believe some of these drivers' names are not being quite loaded yet, so if we do have some gaps, we do apologise, but it is the case that King there being joined by Richard Pixley, as we see the Wild Things Racing driver in P26. We then have behind, well, alongside him, we have what is Jonathan Atkinson there from OTL Racing. He'll be starting off what is our 14th row, and alongside Atkinson will be Andrew Pike here from OTL Racing, the two teammates. And then we will have Alistair Leckie, P29 from Rapid Drivers Club, and the Briton being joined by I believe that is, oh goodness me, I'm not quite 100% sure that is one of the drivers I do know from Half Fast Gaming, but I think it might be the case that some of his details have not loaded through yet due to the jump. But then we do have in P31, and starting off our 16th row, that is Jordan Cotton from RIP Racing Club, joined by Chris Davies, the Springbok from Quantum Racing Team. And then we do have David Hester from what is Half Fast Gaming, starting off our 17th row, being joined as the American by, we have Michael V. Rees there from FRL Racing Team, and then we have Matthew Mudd on P35, the half-fast gaming driver from the United States of America, being joined by Lewis Argitsu, and then, well, in fact, that's not Lewis Argitsu, that's Dino Spimoni, although I think it might be the case Spimoni there wasn't in the lobby last time around, so I'm not sure what's happened here, whether they've had to swap a driver or not. We'll probably get confirmation on that shortly. We then do have S. Lewis from half-fast gaming P37, and then at the back of the field, but not to be forgotten about, Christopher Gedman from FRL Racing Team. But that is the grid once again covered here, and well, as we look to the front of the field right now, it is the case. Looking at Harry Phillips here from Wild Things Racing, he will be worried about the fact the weather has now changed to a little bit of an odder start. We've got a damp start, so the circuit is not quite dry as such. It's still got a little bit of remnant moisture, and we can see on the weather radar there, it is the case that we do have rain in the forecast within the next 30 minutes, albeit cloud coverage for the time being. And will it be the case that the drivers from Salt Behind of Ikit Hedvoind and also Samafosh will be able to find their way to jump ahead, or will we be seeing a repeat of the original start of the race, where it will be the case that Harry Phillips and Patrick Sodecat are able to break away? Well, it was the case that last time out it was a relatively sedate start at the front, but a lot happening at the rear. But now, will we see the same, or will we see it different? We get away with the formation lap once again. Harry Phillips taking us away from that pole position and getting those tyres warmed up on a damp circuit as well, compared to what's an optimum circuit. It will be the case we see Harry Phillips there. Well, he's had a very slow start, a delayed start there for the Wild Things Racing driver. I think just stalling as he got underway, or deciding to delay his start for the reason so he can have a very fast run up towards turn 2 and get some tyre temperature. In fact, you can see now he's really put the accelerator down here, so I think he intentionally might have delayed his start there so he can do some heavy braking into Crowthorne, and also at the same time do some side-to-side wheels to get that sidewall tyre temperature. We look from him all the way down to what is Frank Lucid here from Rapid Drivers Club. It is the case, and that very distinguishable light blue liveried blue BMW M4 as he makes his way up to the corner with the FRL driver alongside him. Well, now Lucid will have to do it all again, of course. Been involved in some of the contacts in the early stages of our first attempt at the race before the restart, and now he'll be hoping for a cleaner start. Indeed, our drivers who are in those contacts will be hoping it's a bit of a cleaner run. It does happen, of course, with 38 drivers out on the circuit. There is always going to be some contact into the opening corners. We hope there's a little bit of side-to-side contact at most, not necessarily drivers going into the wall or being sent off into the distance. But when it does occur, that's why we do have post-race stewarding, of course, to right the wrongs and make sure the drivers who have not been behaving do get told off for it, and ample penalties are applied. And that same Rapid Drivers Club are very good at doing it, is making sure that the stewarding reflects the level of contact and whatnot that does occur in the race. But right now, none of our drivers will be thinking about that. They'll be thinking about getting that temperature into the tyres as we ride on the dashboard here. Andrew Pike, who of course has got his teammate Atkinson in front of him, and we saw both of them get a relatively good start in the first attempt at the race start, and now will they be able to repeat that once again as they make the way through Sunset Corner here? We do see a couple of drivers, I think, just getting it a bit wrong. In fact, one of our drivers onto the grass there. I'm not 100% sure who that is. I think that might be Pixley, in fact, who's got it a bit wrong from RIP. Well, it's an RIP driver who got it wrong coming out to Sunset, and there is some standing water, and that's the thing about Kyalami as well. In these wet conditions, when the circuit is damp, you do get some remnant water. And if anybody remembers back to the Intercontinental GT 2021 race here in the real world, it was the case that after a huge amount of rain in practice and qualifying, which actually led to qualifying being concluded prior to the Super Pole shootout, on race day, despite the fact that the weather conditions are completely changed to the dry, it was the case all the water that had been running down from the top of the circuit, given the significant elevation change at this circuit overlap, that water was running across the kink at turn 1 and going into the drains at the very lowest point of the circuit. And that can happen here. It is modelled in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. They've modelled the drainage system at Kyalami and how the water flows around the circuit. So I wouldn't be surprised if some drivers get caught out here today with regards to where that standing and that remnant running water is. And if we get that rain come within half an hour, you can be sure that is only going to throw another conundrum into the mix as all our drivers now come together. We see Peter Brett right in amongst these drivers, going on that 5th row as they all come down into GT. You see Harry Phillips, they're going very sideways through Cheetah, trying to get some rear tyre temperature. And I do agree with you there, Dale7840 in the YouTube chat, that these DDoSers or hackers, I hope the server holds out as they're at it again. We do hope that it holds out as well, given the fact that we're about to go racing once more. It's Harry Phillips who takes us to the green, but he almost loses it there. My goodness. Well, now he'll be hoping for a sedate start to this race. And it's lights out, away we go once again at the restarted round 1 at Kyalami in Season 2 of the Community Super League as Harry Phillips gets underway and he has to go defensive once more here. Not a strong start this time, particularly as we can see tucked in behind, and that's Patrick Sodicat. In fact, if we make our way through the opening corner, it looks like Samir Foch has gained a lot of ground. In fact, again, side by side with his teammate Karen Fidrzikowski sweep, but this time he finds himself on the outside, not the inside, and as they roll their way into Barbecue, we do look to the helicam here as we see quite the Constantino effect. That's 4 wide going through Barbecue corner. That's Matthew Mudd involved in the mix alongside Tom Davidson. As they all stay down, we've got one driver who goes off there. That's why the RIP driver's involved in that contact. I think that's John Treacy as they make their way in towards Sunset. Well, a couple of drivers there not willing to give the space to one another, and in a number of drivers being punished for it as Alex Nunes gets it wrong there, coming out of Sunset and takes to the grass. He brings the car back on, but as they all come through here, as we've got a spin, and that is Matthew Mudd who goes for a spin coming out of turn number 7. And right now, Clubhouse Corner has not been kind to Mudd as he's pointing the wrong way. That's Tim Troquet, in fact, my apologies, and he's got to do it all again from the back of the field now as we do look down to the closer cameras here as all our drivers make their way up into Leocop Corner. It is the case we can see here Delucia, Pascal Delucia having a very good start, much like in the first attempt of this race, whereby it is the case he is currently holding on to P5 and he does have behind in the Fast Chargers Headwind. In fact, Headwind has lost out massively since the start of this race. That's something to note. He's lost a lot of black ground, and as they make their way into Crocodiles, you can see there is the case. We see Peter Brett coming up the inside, and now as they make their way into turn number 15 into Cheetah Corner, well, Hubert Smansky from Salt is closing up to his rear teammate here as they make their way into Ingwe Corner, rolling on through. But as they do a little bit further back, we can see Evan Keynes. We're saying that's Elias Anderson, we should say, from IP Racing Club. He's just found his way, or in fact, Evan Kearns there. Well, it is the case. I think we've got some of our drivers' data mixed up on our screen, so it is the case that some of our drivers' names aren't who we think they are, and that's off screen. You can't quite see that at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, but we can see here Elias Anderson from RP Racing Club. He's made some ground already up to P11 as they come to the end of lap number 1, and as they roll their way into the opening 2 corners once again. Now we see Ryan Brown here from Quantum Racing Team trying to go on the offensive, but he's got to worry about the fact that he's got, I believe that is Thomas behind, and Thomas really putting that pressure on nice and early as they roll their way on through the corners. The FRL Racing Team driver trying to get a move on as they now head on to lap number 2 and up towards Sunset Corner for the second time of asking. We see the track conditions already evolved from damp to greasy. That standing water is starting to go away now, and therefore the track's not going to be quite as comfortable to drive on as they would like it to, but it will be improving as we do see it is the case. Elias Anderson there under May. Oh goodness me, and I think we may have just lost the server again, ladies and gentlemen, which is very unfortunate. If so, we will be back once again, but I think it might be the case. We're falling foul twice, and we will be back to tell you what's happening in due course. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to a decision. A decision has gone back and forth between our drivers, our communities, and also the organisers of this series. And unfortunately, we have had to make the decision to suspend today's season opener at Kyalami. But the good news is, it's not going to go to waste. It is the case. We will come back in 2 weeks' time and try to run the season opener once again. Unfortunately, it is a problem in terms of the denial of service attack of the server that is outside of the organiser's control. It is one of situations whereby multiple servers, indeed the whole background server for Assetto Corsa Competizione on PC, is currently receiving a number of denial of service attacks as we understand it. So it is the case, even if we attempted to run this race again for a third time tonight, we could experience the exact same outcome after 5-10 minutes. So instead, it's been decided that we're going to postpone by 2 weeks, and this is to provide time for a solution to be devised by whether it's the developers of ACC, so that's what is Cuna Simulazione, or alternatively for our own organisers to be able to take a look at what safeguards can be put in place. And already discussions are underway between the organisers and the different community managers of the communities who are taking part of this series to talk about ways in which we can protect the server for the purposes of the racing in 2 weeks. So that has been the decision. We feel as though it's the best way to safeguard the racing for our drivers, given the amount of time, sweat, effort and practice that has been put in. And I appreciate it may not be a decision that everybody agrees with, but we decided to go with it because we do want to run all 6 rounds and not scrap around after only 5 to 10 minutes of racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean, unfortunately, I do have to say, that is the end of the racing today. But thank you very much for watching nonetheless. And if you do want to know more about this series, alternatively, what the Rapid Drivers Club does as a community or what it represents, then why not check out the Rapid Drivers Club Twitter, or alternatively their link tree, where you can see their full array of links from their website all the way through to their YouTube channel, their Twitter, and such forth. But we will be back again in 2 weeks' time, so save the date, ladies and gentlemen. It will be the case. We will be back on Saturday, the 9th of July, to go racing at Kyalami for the second time of asking, and hopefully it will be without the pesky denial of service attacks, and we'll get to see who comes out on top in the season opener. But until then, have a great rest of your weekend. Stay well, stay safe, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track and don't let those nasty DDoSers take you off track. Until then, good night.